Hello, this is Craig from bitsbox.co.uk, and this is part 2 in our look at Stormcast Eternals, Battletome. So, in this part of the video, we are looking through all the formations, and there's a lot of them, so I'm going to crack straight onto them once I find the page, prepared as always. Okay, so some of these earlier ones will be battalions made up of other battalions, but I'm still going to go through in order, so we'll just crack on with what they do. I'm a lot less croaky in this video as well, so hopefully you guys can hear me okay. Okay, so this is the Warrior Chamber. It includes 1 Lords of the Storm, which we will look at in a bit, and 3 Thunderhead Brotherhoods and 3 Hammerstrike Forces. And their abilities: this battalion has the Scions of the Storm ability, which page 95, I think we did look at that in the previous video, but I'll just refresh our memories. So that's just a regular battle trait for the army. So if you're using just this formation as part of maybe not a pure Stormcast force, then you still get that ability. And also, if your army is a pure Stormcast force, you can add 2 or subtract 2 from your rolls for that ability. So it essentially works like Deep Strike, bringing stuff in, like in 40k, so they come in on a 3+, I believe. So yeah, so I'm adding 2 to that. Surely that would just mean they'll always come on. So that's pretty cool actually. So yeah, you can essentially really choose when and what comes on the board via that ability. So that's really cool. If there are at least 50 models from this battalion on the battlefield, they are all storm-swathed, and their celestial auras coalesce into a palpable force. You can reroll failed wound rolls for attacks made by these models. That's good, but it just requires a lot of counting all the time, wouldn't it? But still pretty good. Then we have the Harbinger Chamber, which is 1 Lord of the Storm and 3 Vanguard Wings. It also has the same Lightning Strike ability, where you can add or subtract 2 from your Scions of the Storm. The warriors that form a Harbinger Chamber are charged with a nimbus of celestial energy that lets them anticipate their opponent's actions with a preternatural speed. Add 1 to result of any hit rolls for models from this chamber. So that's quite cool actually. And we'll see what these ones are made up of in a minute. And then we have the Exemplar Chamber, which is a 1 Lord of the Storms and 3 Devastation Brotherhoods. Again, they have the Lightning Strike ability. If a unit from this battalion is slain in the combat phase, pick another unit from this battalion within 10 inches of it. That unit harnesses the celestial energy of their slain brethren to enact swift vengeance upon the foe. Add 1 to the attacks of all the unit's melee weapons for the remainder of the battle. Okay, so now we'll get to see what these previous battalions are made up of. So the Lords of the Storm, all 3 of the previous ones included a Lords of the Storm, and as you'd guess, these are your characters. So you've got the Lord Celestin, and he can either be on foot, or a Dragoth, or a Stardrake. So there's 1 of them. There's also 1 Lord Relictor, 0 to 1 unit of Gryphounds, 1 to 4 Lord Castellants or Veritants in any combination, and then 3 to 15 Knights Herald or Vexil or Azeros or Venators. So quite a lot of heroes, a minimum of 6 there. You can add 1 to the bravery of all Stormcast units that are within 6 inches of 1 or more of these heroes. If at least 3 of these heroes are within 3 inches of each other in your opponent's hero phase, roll a dice for each enemy unit that is within 3 inches of any of them. On a 4+, the enemy unit is battered by a wave of celestial energy and suffers 1 mortal wound for each Stormcast hero within 3 inches of it. An enemy unit that suffers wounds must retreat in its movement phase if possible as well. So that's quite a nice little ability actually. I do quite like that. You do need a lot of heroes for this though. Next we have the Thunderhead Brotherhood, which is 3 units of Liberators and 2 units of Judicators. If an enemy unit attacks a Judicator's unit from this battalion, check whether it's possible to draw a line from the attacking unit to a model in the target unit without crossing 1 inches of any of your Liberators. If this is not possible, you can add 1 to the save rolls you make for Adjudicators. So essentially, if you're shooting through the Liberators at the Adjudicators, they get +1 to their save. Which is really cool if you want to make them survive in the shooting phase. So that could be really handy actually. I quite like that ability. And whilst a unit from this battalion is within 8 inches of at least 2 others, it is Thunder Charge, and you can reroll wound rolls of 1 for models in that unit. So again, that's quite nice and quite handy for your Judicators. Next we have the Hammer Strike Force, which is 2 units of Paladins and 1 unit of Prosecutors. So instead of setting up the Paladins on the battlefield, you can place either or both of the units to set up in the Celestial Realm. In any of your movement phases, you can transport either or both of them onto the battlefield within 6 inches of the Prosecutors. If they've been slain, then they can just arrive no more than 9 inches away from any enemy models. When a unit of Paladins from this battalion is set up within 6 inches of the Prosecutors, they are supercharged. You can add 1 to any wound rolls that you make for the unit until the end of your turn. Next up we have the Vanguard Wing. So this is 3 units of Prosecutors, and 1 unit of Liberators, and 1 unit of Judicators. So Liberators and Judicators are empowered while they are within 8 inches of the Prosecutors. If a hit roll for an attack made by these Liberators or Judicators is a 6 or higher, you make 2 wound rolls rather than 1. Instead of moving in their movement phase, a Vanguard's Wing's Liberators can vanish with a crash of thunder, travelling at the speed of a thunderbolt to aid the Prosecutor Brethren. Remove them from the battlefield and set them up with anywhere within 5 inches of a unit of Prosecutors. So that's really cool if you really want to get your Liberators moving at speed. Next we have the Devastation Brotherhood. So they are 1 unit of Retributors, Prosecutors, Decimators, and Protectors and Judicators. So if models from all 3 of the Paladin type units inflict wounds on the same enemy unit in the combat phase, that enemy unit suffers a further d6 mortal wound at the end of the phase as warriors are smashed to the dirt and trampled beneath Sigmarite-clad footfalls. There are some good descriptions in here. In your hero phase, you can pick an enemy unit within 9 inches of the Brotherhood's Prosecutors. Until your next hero phase, while the Prosecutors are within 9 inches, that unit subtracts 1 from its bravery. And then they also have the Pin and Fire special rule. Roll a dice for each enemy unit that suffered any wounds caused by the Brotherhood's Judicators in the shooting phase. Your opponent must subtract that many inches from the distance that unit can move in their subsequent movement phase. So now we have some War Scroll battalions using the new units. So we have the Vanguard Auxiliary Chamber, which is 1 Lord Aquila, 3 to 9 Knights Azeros or Venator, and then 1 Vanguard Angelos Conclave and 1 Vanguard Justica Conclave, which we'll look at in a minute. So the Lord Aquila guides their chamber unerringly to their quarry, taking the foe unawares. Instead of setting up a unit from this chamber on the battlefield, you can place it to one side and say it is set up in pursuit. In any of your movement phases, you can summon any of these units to strike at the enemy's flanks. When you do so, set up each unit wholly within 6 inches of any edge of a battlefield, more than 7 inches away from the enemy. This is their move for that movement phase. So that is actually really cool, really getting in, sort of anywhere on the battlefield. So that's actually a really nice ability. When a Vanguard Auxiliary Chamber gathers its full strength, their enemies are caught in a crossfire that fills the skies with lightning and sweeps them away as if by a hurricane. Add 1 to the attack characteristics of all missile weapons for this unit, other than the heroes from this chamber. Okay. So, and these are the 2 conclaves that were mentioned in the previous one. So we have the Vanguard Angelos Conclave, which is 1 to 3 units of Vanguard Paladors and 3 to 9 units of Vanguard Hunters. So the warriors of this conclave have trained to make the most of their mount's supernatural abilities. If 3 units of Vanguard Paladors from this conclave choose to ride the Winds of Ferric in the same movement phase, you can roll 3 dice for each unit's distance when they do so. In addition, all other units from this conclave can add an additional d6 to a distance if they can run in the movement phase. The sudden arrival of the Vanguard Angelos Conclave is devastating in its impact, spelling certain doom for their quarry. If all the Vanguard Hunters are set up in pursuit and arrive in the same movement phase, they can immediately attack as if it were the shooting phase. And next we have the Vanguard Justicar Conclave, which is 3 units of Vanguard Raptors and 3 units of Aether Wings. The Aether Wings and the Stormcast Eternals in this conclave have formed close bonds, and are united in their efforts to destroy the enemies of Order. In their shooting phase, Vanguard Raptors from this conclave can reroll hit rolls of 1 for attacks directed against a unit of 12 inches of any of the Aether Wings from this conclave. So that's quite a nice little ability. The warriors of the Vanguard Justicar Conclave are practiced at spotting weaknesses in their foes from afar and capitalising on them. If a unit from this conclave directs all of its attacks against a unit that includes a model that has suffered 1 or more wounds but has not yet been slain, you can add 1 to their wound rolls. So next we have the Extremist Chamber. This is 1 Lord Selsdon on Stardrake or Dracoth, 1 Drake Swarm Temple, which we'll look at in a minute, 1 Lightning Echelon and 1 Thunderwave Echelon. So instead of setting up a unit from an Extremist Chamber on the battlefield, you can place it to one side and say that it's riding the High Star Sigendil. In any of your movement phases, you can transport all units that are riding the star to the battlefield. When you do so, place a dice anywhere on the battlefield to show the epicenter of the Star Blast. Set up each of the transported units within 20 inches of the dice and more than 6 inches from the enemy. This is their move for that movement phase. Then roll a dice for each enemy unit within 15 inches of the dice, and a result of 4 or more, it suffers D3 mortal wounds from a furious impact. The arrival of the Extremist Chamber on the battlefield is a portent of doom for any who stands against the Stormcast and their allies. If your opponent makes battle shock test for an enemy unit that has been 3 inches of 2 or more units from an Extremist Chamber, they must roll 2 dice and use the highest result. So that is quite a large chamber, mind you, because it does include 1 of the Drake Swarm Temples, which is 3 Drake Swarm Templars. So lots of Star Drakes coming in for sure. The members of a Drake Swarm Temple can summon a Nova Surge. Their Star Drakes gleaming with the light of 1,000 stars before sending out waves of celestial energy. In your hero phase, if all 3 models from a Drake Swarm Temple are within 10 inches of each other, they can unleash a Nova Surge. When they do so, roll a dice. Each unit within that many inches of a Drake Swarm Templars is caught in the surge. Stormcast Eternal units from your army heal D3 wounds, while enemies suffer D3 mortal wounds. If the presence of a single Star Drake on the battlefield is enough to give any enemy pause, it would take a Herculean effort to stand firm before a Drake Swarm Temple. While there are at least 2 models from the Drake Swarm Temple on the battlefield, subtract 1 from the bravery of any enemy units that are within 10 inches of them. Whew. We are getting there. Next we have the Lightning Echelon, which is 2 units of Fulminators and 2 units of Tempestors, all of course riding on their Dracophs. So riding in close formation, the Fulminators of the Lightning Echelon can extend their Celestial Shield to defend their Tempestor brethren. Add 1 for the result of any save rolls you make for a Tempestor's unit from the Lightning Echelon if it was within 2 inches of any Fulminators from the same battalion. Lightning Echelons are known for their devastating, headlong charges, never slowing until they have broken the enemy's ranks. Once per battle in the charge phase, a Lightning Echelon can make a line breaker assault. Each model in the battalion that has already charged this phase inflicts a mortal wound on a unit within half an inch of it. Then each unit in the battalion can charge again, even if it has already charged and can pass through enemy models when it does so. So that's really cool. And my voice is getting croaky, so I'm going to have a quick water break. So we have the Thunderwave Echelon next. 2 units of Concussors and 2 units of Desolators. So they have Ride the Annihilators. And the Warriors of the Thunderwave Echelon revel in riding down the foe with hammer and axe, running down any and reach and breaking the spirit of those that survive. Each time a model flees from an enemy unit that is within 3 inches of a unit from a Thunderwave Echelon, roll a dice. On a 5 or 6, another model from the same unit is run down and removed from play. The duty of the Thunderwave Echelon is to follow in the wake of the Lightning Echelon, targeting units one at a time and destroying them utterly. Once per battle in the combat phase, a Thunderwave Echelon can make a ruinous assault. Each unit in battalion can immediately pile in and attack again in an order of your choice. Excuse me. Again, really, really cool ability actually. So next we have the Aether Strike Force, which is a Knight Venator, a Knight Azeros, 2 units of Judicators, 2 units of Vanguard Raptors, and 2 units of Aether Wings. The enemies of the Aether Strike Force hear their doom approaching in the beating of celestial wings. In your hero phase, 1 unit from this force can attack as if it were the shooting phase. All of their attacks must be directed at units within 12 inches of any units of Aether Wings from this battalion or the Knight Azeros. Any who seeks to strike against the comrades of these warriors will find their temerity punished with ice cold efficiency. When a unit from this force is destroyed, another unit from this force can attack as if it were the shooting phase. All of their attacks must be directed at the enemy unit that destroyed the unit from the Aether Strike Force. I quite like that one actually, really shooty, and it sort of makes good use of the Azeros and the Aether Wings as well. I quite like that one. And we have the Celestial Hunting Pack, which is 1 Lord Celestin on a Dracoth, 3 units of Dracovian Guard. And I like how they sort of put stuff like Dracovian Guard and Paladins and like Bold, so you know it's like a choice of the different units they can make, which is quite cool. It's also a Lord Aquila, and 3 units of Vanguard Paladors, so a lot of stuff on mounts, so if you want an army focused around cavalry, this is probably the formation for you. The eddies in the Aether created by the Griff charges of this pack create channels for the already terrifying storm powers of the Dracophs that accompany them. If a unit from this pack moves over an enemy unit while riding the Winds of Ferric, and there is a unit from this battalion with the Storm Breath or Storm Blast ability within 12 inches of the enemy unit, that enemy unit suffers a mortal wound. The Lord Celestin and Lord Aquila that lead this pack fight with one accord, directing their units in a 2-headed attack that devastates the enemy. If either of the Lord Celestin or the Lord Aquila from this pack is your general, the other may also use their own command abilities as if they were your general. So next we have the Storm Vortex Garrison, which is a Lord Castellan, a Knight Heraldor, a Knight Vexillor, 2 units of Liberators, 2 units of Paladins, and 2 units of Vanguard Hunters. So, let's just get into what these do. So, units from the garrison that are within units from the garrison that are within 8 inches of any hero from this garrison do not have to take battle shock tests. There we go, got there in the end. The warriors of the Storm Vortex garrison know that if they keep their vows, Sigmar will send reinforcements to aid them. If a unit of Vanguard Hunters from this garrison is set up in pursuit, when they arrive, you may also set up a unit from this garrison that has already been destroyed. This additional unit is added to your army as reinforcements and is set up wholly within 6 inches of a table edge, more than 7 inches from the enemy, and within 6 inches of the Vanguard Hunters that lead them to the battle. Next we have the Storm Heralds, which is a Lord Celestant on Stardrake, 3 units of Prosecutors and 3 units of Vanguard Paladors. The Vanguard Paladors of the Storm Heralds are the sweeping gale that brings the storm. You can set up any units from the Storm Heralds in the Etheric Currents. When a unit of Vanguard Paladors from the Storm Herald ride the Wind Etheric, at the end of their move you can set up any units from the Storm Herald that will wait in the Etheric Currents within 5 inches of that unit and more than 3 inches from the enemy. This is their move for the movement phase. The Prosecutors strike like lightning in the wake of the Vanguard Paladors. When they are set up from the Etheric Currents, they can add 1 to all their hit and wound rolls in the next shooting phase. The Lord Celestant arrives with a great roll of thunder on their bellowing mount. The Stardrake's Roll and Thunderhead ability can be used in your hero phase as well as your shooting phase. That's quite cool. Okay, so that's the the formations or battalions, and then we just have the rules for each of the individual chambers that you can use as well. So we have the Hammers of Sigmar Warrior Chamber. They include a Thunderhead Brotherhood, but they must include 4 units of Liberators rather than the 3. They may also contain the following: 0 to 1 Lords of the Storm, 0 to 2 Thunderheads, and 0 to 3 Hammerstrike battalions, and any number of additional Stormcast units. If a Hammers of Sigmar Warrior Chamber contains the maximum number of battalions, it gains the Lightning Strike and Wrath of Storm abilities. And that's a lot of miniatures. So the Hammers of Sigmar were the first Stormcast Eternals, the most veteran of Sigmar's superhuman warriors, and they all increase their bravery by 1. So when a friendly unit of Liberators is destroyed, roll a dice, and on a 6, Sigmar reinforces his chosen warriors. Set up that unit, restore to its full strength in the Celestial Realm, and return it to battle in your next movement phase as if it had the Lightning Strike ability. They also have a command trait. So your general can take this instead of one of the regular ones. Whenever a friendly Hammers of Sigmar unit within 3 inches of your general suffers a wound or mortal wound, and that is ignored on a 6+. So next we have the Hallowed Knights. So they include 1 Lords of the Storm battalion, and it must include at least 6 heroes. They may also include the following: 0 to 3 Thunderhead battalions, and 0 to 3 Hammerstrike, and any number of additional Stormcast units. They also gain the Lightning Strike and Wrath of Storm abilities if they have the maximum number of battalions. So whenever a friendly Hallowed Knight unit would be affected by an enemy spell, roll a dice, and on a 5 or more, the effects of the spell are ignored. When the Hallowed Knights sight their enemy, their zeal impels them to take the fight to their foes, so that the realms might be saved. They can add 1 inch to their run and charge distances. When a Hallowed Knight's hero is slain, roll a dice, and on a 2+, they are not removed as a casualty until the end of the phase, and in the meantime can still pile in an attack as normal. That's quite a nice little ability. Next we have the Celestial Vindicators. They include a Hammerstrike Force battalion, but must include 3 units of Paladins rather than 2. They may also contain 0 to 1 Lords of Storm, 0 to 3 Thunderhead Brotherhoods, and 0 to 2 Hammerstrikes, and any number of additional Stormcast units, and again they also gain Lightning Strike and Wrath of Storm for a maximum number of battalions. If any models from a unit are slain, that unit can reroll failed hit rolls of 1 until the end of a turn. If the unit is armed with War Blades, Ground Blades, Storm Gladeye, Stormstrike Glaives, or Storm Sabers, it can reroll all hits until the end of a turn. The range of a Celestial Supercharge ability of Celestial Vindicator Hammerstrike Forces is 12 inches rather than 6. They also have a command ability you can use. When your general uses this ability, friendly units within 6 inches add 1 to the attack characteristics of their Warblade, Groundblade, Storm Gladeye, Stormstrike Glaives, and Storm Sabers. Next we have Anvils of the Helden Hammer, which is one Thunderhead Brotherhood battalion, which must contain 3 units of Judicators rather than the 2. They can also have 0 to 1 Lords of Storm, 0 to 2 Thunderhead, and 0 to 3 Hammer Strikes, and any additional number of Stormcast units. And again they get Lightning Strike and Wrath of Storm for maximum number of battalions. In your hero phase, roll a dice for each unit within 8 inches of any heroes. But do not roll for the heroes themselves. On a 6, that unit can move as if it were the movement phase, shoot as if it were the shooting phase, or pile in and make attacks as if it were the combat phase. This does not prevent it acting normally for the rest of your turn. That's quite cool, but it only happens on a roll of 6. One hero can have the following artifact of power, and that is the Soul Thief. If a model is wounded but not slain by the Soul Thief, roll a dice for that model at the end of the combat phase. If the result is higher than its wounds characteristic, it is immediately slain. Next we have the Knights Excelsior, which is 1 Devastation Brotherhood, and they can have 0 to 1 Lords of Storm and 0 to 2 Devastation Brotherhoods and any additional numbers of Stormcast units, and again the Lightning Strike and... well, this time you get the Lightning Strike and Martial Bond abilities for having the maximum number of battalions. So whilst a Knights Excelsior unit is within 3 inches of 2 or more other units from this battalion, it can reroll save rolls of 1, and units with shield can reroll failed save rolls of 1 and 2. So that's really cool actually, that is a really, really nice ability. If a unit destroys an enemy in the combat phase, it also heals D3 wounds. They can also have the following artifact, which is the Chains of Celestial Lightning. So once per battle in your hero phase, this hero may attempt to bind an enemy hero or monster within 3 inches. To do so, roll 3 dice, while your opponent rolls 2 dice. If the target is a hero or... Alright, okay. So to do so, roll 3 dice while your opponent rolls 2 dice if the target is a hero, or 3 dice if it's a monster. If your total is higher, that model halves the distance it moves, runs, or charges, and any attack's characteristics rounding up until your next hero phase. So that's okay. It's not great, but it's okay. Next we have the Celestial Warbringer's Harbinger Chamber, which is 1 Lords of the Storm battalion, which must include 6 heroes, including at least 2 Knights Heraldor. And also can have 0 to 3 Vanguard Wing battalions and any number of additional Stormcast units. With a maximum number of battalions, they gain Lightning Strike and Celestial Nimbus. So when more than one of the Knight Heraldor uses the Battle Horn in a hero phase, you can pick a target within 25 inches for their Onwards to Glory or Thunderblast abilities. If a unit slays an enemy unit in the combat phase and there is another enemy unit within 3 inches, roll a dice. On a roll of 6, they may immediately pile in and attack with one of their melee weapons. And they can also not be affected by any rules or abilities that reduce bravery in any way. Next we have the Tempest Lord's Harbinger Chamber, which is 1 Vanguard Wing Battalion, which must include 4 units of Prosecutors rather than 3. We'll also have 0 to 1 Lords of Storm, 0 to 2 Vanguard Wing Battalions, and any additional number of Stormcast units, and they also get Lightning Strike and Celestial Nimbus if they have the maximum number of formations or battalions. We do call them formations a lot because you know, they turned up first in 40k, but I'm sure you guys all know what we mean. So Tempest Lord units that can fly can make a charge move in the charge phase, whether or not an enemy unit is in range, and they can move even if that move would not finish within ½ inches of an enemy. That's really good actually. So you basically get to just move an extra 2d6 inches in your charge phase, even if you're not charging at anything. So that makes them very quick. I quite like that. That's pretty cool. So Tempest Lords believe that to fall before they have taken their tally from a foe is a great disgrace. So keep count of the enemy models slain. Once that number is equal to or more than 12 times the number of heroes in your army, each friendly Tempest Lord heroes add 1 to each of their attack characteristics and their wound characteristics. So that's really cool. A Tempest Lord General can have the strike-inspired command trait instead of those listed on page 95. In your hero phase, your general can order a strike on an enemy unit within 3 inches. Friendly Tempest Lords can reroll hit and wound rolls of 1 for attacks that target that unit until your next hero phase. So there's nice little buffs for your heroes there, as he has another quick drink break. And I think this is the last one. This is the Astral Templars Exemplar Chamber, which is 1 Lords of the Storm Battalion, and 0 to 3 Devastation Brotherhoods and any number of additional Stormcast units. And if you have a maximum number of battalions, you're getting Lightning Strike and Martial Bond abilities. So Astral Templars heroes can add 1 to their hit rolls against monsters. While there are more enemy models than friendly models within 3 inches of an Astral Templars hero, add 1 to all of his attacks. They also have a command trait, the Veteran of the Gnarlwood. An Astral Templars General can have this command trait instead of one of those listed on page 95. Reroll all failed hit and wound rolls for attack made by the General against monsters. So this is your monster hunting chamber for sure. So that was a lot of battalions to get through, and now we just go into the War Scrolls. I'm not going to go through them all. Obviously a lot of these are the same. We could have a quick look at the new units of course though. I'm sure some of you guys would like to know what they can do. So, and there may be little changes to some of the other stuff, but I don't have a list here what to go through. And we will just quickly look at Gryph-hounds, because I quite like Gryph-hounds. They don't have no save, but they do have 3 wounds each. They can move 9 inches. They have 2 attacks for their beaks and claws, which hits on 3 pluses and wounds on 4 for 1 damage and no rend. Not too great. A Gryph-hound can make 4 attacks with its beak and claws rather than 2 if the target unit is within 3 inches of a Lord Castellan. They also have Darting attacks, which I really like. So immediately after they have attacked in the combat phase, you roll a dice and they can move up to that many inches. So that could be really cool, just attacking the enemy and then just backing away so they can't attack back. That's really cool. If an enemy unit is set up within 10 inches of this unit, roll 2 dice. Any unit within that many inches of the Gryph-hounds is alerted to the enemy's presence and can attack it with one of its weapons as though it were your shooting phase. So that could come in handy, but so a lot of the units that we all know quite well. Here we do have the Lord Aquila, who has 7 wounds, has a 3+ save, and he can move 12 inches because he's riding a Gryph Charger. Now we'll look at the Astral Compass rule, because I think that does come up again later on. So instead of setting them up on the battlefield, you can place the model to one side and say it's set up in pursuit. In any of your movement phases, you can summon the Lord Aquila to strike at the enemy's flank. When you do so, set him wholly up within 6 inches of the edge of the battlefield and more than 7 inches from the enemy. So we saw that in one of the battalions as well, and that is quite cool. Ride the Winds of Ferric, that's come up quite a lot in the battalions you may know. And you might have been wondering, well, what is that? So, this is what it is. In this movement phase, the Lord Aquila can choose to ride the Winds of Ferric instead of moving normally. If they do so, choose the direction in which they will move and then roll 6 dice. The Lord Aquila can move up to a number of inches equal to the result in the direction chosen, moving over terrain and other models as if they could fly. However, they must end their movement more than 3 inches from enemy models. If this is impossible, they cannot move at all. And the Lord Aquila cannot run or charge in a turn which they have done so, which is understandable. Any hit rolls of 6 or more with the Griff Charger's Razor-Beaten Claws cause a mortal wound instead of normal damage. And you also have the Lord of the Azurite Hurricane, the command ability. You can remove the Lord Aquila and or a friendly unit of Vanguard Hunters, Paladors, Raptors or Aetherwings within 24 inches of them from the battlefield and set them up in your subsequent movement phase as if they have been set up in pursuit. So next we have Vanguard Raptors, and they have long strike crossbows or hurricane crossbows. Both really good actually. So a long strike crossbow is 24-inch range. It's only one attack, but it does hit on a 2+, wound on a 3+, and has -2 rend and damage 2. So you do have a Raptor Prime, who is accompanied by an Aetherwing. Oh, excuse me. If a unit of Vanguard Raptors does not move in the movement phase, you can add 6 inches to the range of any long strike crossbow. In that same turn, obviously. If a hit roll is 6 or more, it causes 2 mortal wounds instead of a normal damage. If an enemy unit makes a charge move that ends within 1 inch of a unit, that includes a Raptor Prime with an Aetherwing, roll a dice for each Vanguard Raptor in the unit, and any rolls of 6 inflict 2 mortal wounds on the charging unit. So we also have Vanguard Raptors with Hurricane crossbows. They have 18-inch range, but they have 6 attacks. But they hit and wound on 4+ and do 1 damage. And the Raptor Prime hits on a 3+. If a unit of Vanguard Raptors does not move in the movement phase, you can add 3 to the attacks of each Hurricane crossbow. So that brings them all up to 9 attacks. If they direct all of their shooting attacks against a single unit, that unit must subtract 2 from any charge move they make until your next hero phase. So next up we have the Vanguard Hunters. They will have a Bolt Storm pistol. I know. 9-inch range, 2 attacks, 3+ to hit, 4+ to wound and damage 1. They also have the Astral Compass ability, because I believe 1 in every 5 models can have an Astral Compass. And they can also run and shoot in the same turn, and for Prime has 3 attacks rather than 2. So they are a decent little unit. 2 wounds and 4+ save. We also have the Aetherwings. So at the beginning of your opponent's charge phase, any friendly unit of Aetherwings within 12 inches of a friendly unit of Vanguard Raptors can immediately move. Roll 2 dice. The Aetherwings can move up to this distance in inches. They can retreat with this move but cannot run. And this move cannot take them further than 12 inches from the Vanguard Raptors. And units of Aetherwings can also retreat and charge in the same turn, which is quite nice. And they can move 12 inches, they've got 2 wounds, no save. They have 2 attacks, hit on 4, wound on 3s with 1 damage. And then lastly, lastly we have the Paladors. These are the guys on the Griff Chargers. So they also have to ride the Winds of Ferric. You can either arm them with a shock hand axe, or Starstrike Javelin, so you can sort of mix and match them up. They all have a Boltstorm pistol as well, so that's really cool. The pistol is 9-inch range, 2 attacks, hit on 3, wound on 4, so we just saw with the Hunters. Starstrike Javelin is 18 inches, 1 attack, hit and wound on 3 for -1 rend, which is quite nice. And the hand axe is 2 attacks, hit and wound on a 3+ with no rend. And then the javelin in melee is 1 attack, hit on a 4+ this time and wound on 3+, but still -1 rend. And then the Griff chargers have 3 attacks, hit and wound on 3s with -2 rend and 1 damage. So they're quite nice. And of course, again, any rolls of hit or 6 or more with their razor beak and claws does a mortal wound instead of a normal damage. The Palador Prime can attack with their Lunar Blade in addition to attacking with their Shock Hand Axe or Starstrike Javelin. If they do so, choose an enemy unit within 1 inch and roll a dice. On a 2+, that unit suffers a mortal wound. So that's quite a nice little extra there. So this does bring us to the end of the Stormcast Eternal book. We just have the rules, and then we have the points, and just all these battalions. Like, whew, done well to get through them. So yeah, that's basically the Stormcast Eternals. That is all the formations and just a quick look at some of the new units. So yeah, I mean, really nice stuff in here. Nothing like too massively overpowered, I don't think. I haven't gone into the points for new stuff, but yeah, I think they're still solid army, as you'd expect. That they are going to be quite good because they are the poster boys for Age of Sigmar, and the models are beautiful. I really like the new stuff, and we will be trying them out in a bat rep in the future, so you can look forward to that. So I hope you guys have enjoyed these 2 videos, and I'm glad I'm not as croaky in this one, although my voice is getting dry from talking so much, so I'm not going to talk much longer. All that's left to say is thank you so much for watching, and you can like, subscribe, Patreon, all that other stuff if you wish, and I'll see you all again in the next video.